to my channel. I'm DJ and I share videos about my IVF journey and my twin pregnancy. I'm sorry it's been a while since I've posted. I did give birth. My last update was my second trimester recap. And since then, obviously, I have given birth. It's just been very hectic is the word. Very hectic and very busy having twins and bringing them home and everything. And they are now 8 weeks, so 2 months today. And so I thought I would share their birth story and what led up to everything that happened. And then at the end of the video, I will share some photos of them. They had some really cute photos from coming home from the hospital and also from Halloween, and then their 1 month photos and all of that. So I thought I would share that and also reveal their names. So when I was pregnant, around 35 weeks, I started having some higher blood pressure over a weekend, and I was monitoring it. It was a little elevated. It wasn't like necessarily high, but it was elevated more than my normal blood pressures. So I called my doctor after the weekend and I was like, hey, I don't have any headache or blurry vision or anything like that, but my blood pressure's been a little elevated over the weekend. Like, should I come in? Like, what do you want me to do? And they were like, please do come in. Like, we do want to monitor you. We do want to make sure like everything's okay. And so I came into the hospital, and the labor and delivery room, and they hooked me up to monitors. They did labs and everything. And, I was diagnosed with preeclampsia, mild preeclampsia. I did have some protein in my urine, and towards the end, they also said that baby B, my baby girl, was growth restricted. They think that the placenta may not have been working as they wanted. They think it could be from the preeclampsia or not. So once I got the preeclampsia diagnosis, things started to develop really fast. They also noticed my anemia. In my past video, I shared that I had anemia, so I was taking iron pills on top of my iron prenatal. And so when they did my labs, my iron levels were even lower than before. So I had to even get iron infusions. And if you've never had it, it's not too bad. I mean, it's not great, but it wasn't terrible. I literally had to just schedule appointments for an outpatient infusion center, and I'd go in, they'd hook me up to an IV for iron, wait like 30 minutes until it was done, and then I was free to go. So it wasn't bad. So things started moving really fast after my preeclampsia diagnosis. They scheduled me for as many infusions as they could fit in, and they moved up my induction date. So my induction date was originally for Friday the 13th, which I was very excited about, but it had to be moved up to October 4. It was a Wednesday. So we moved up my date for induction because of the preeclampsia and because of the growth restriction. We just wanted to make sure the twins were going to be fine. And so the date, which is October 4th, I would be 36 weeks and 4 days. And I'll share the story of how, like, everything that went down. So after we got my induction date, it was really like, get everything ready. Like, we had to make sure everything was unpacked from the baby shower. Baby things were put together. Our room was ready. My daughter was ready to be packed away at my mom's for a few days while we were in the hospital. Like, we just had to get everything ready and set, and then give my partner Garnett's work notice that he was leaving earlier than expected. And yeah, it was just a lot. It was a lot to and it was a little scary too, I will say. I was really nervous that something would go wrong or anything, just because, preeclampsia is the thing that we're really warned about in pregnancy, and you really don't want to get it. But I mean, I had very mild preeclampsia. I didn't have any swelling anywhere other than my feet, and I didn't have any other symptoms besides that. I didn't have a headache or blurry vision. I did have some protein in my urine, which changed my diagnosis from gestational hypertension to preeclampsia. But yeah, so on the day for my induction, we were scheduled to come into the hospital, and we came in on Wednesday night. My daughter was already at my mom's, and we went over to the hospital, checked in, and they started my induction process with a Foley balloon, and that's where they put this balloon kind of inside your cervix, and they manually add water to it to inflate the balloon slowly to try to make your cervix go. And before I came into the hospital, I was actually already 2 centimeters dilated, but I was not very effaced, so still pretty closed up in that section. So starting off at 2 centimeters, and then went to the hospital, did the Foley balloon that night. It was really crampy. It wasn't too painful, but it wasn't great. And then after that, we stayed at the hospital that night, and then in the morning they checked me again, and the next morning I was 4 centimeters and handling labor pretty well. I didn't get that great of sleep that night just because I could feel the contractions a little bit from the balloon, and also they had to monitor both babies' heart rates when I was in the hospital, and baby B, our baby girl, was very wiggly. Every time they got her on the monitor, I would move or adjust, and then she'd move, and they'd have to come back and readjust. So it was really quite a battle during the whole labor about having both babies on the monitor at the same time. And at one point we couldn't find baby B, and we had to get an ultrasound in, but they were both handling labor pretty well. Nobody was in distress. We were very lucky that everything was okay. So in the morning, 4 centimeters, we were like, okay, we're going to take the balloon out and we're going to start the Pitocin. So the contractions weren't too bad, and I ended up getting an epidural, and it was my first epidural, and I was really nervous about it. My first pregnancy was a singleton with my daughter, and I had a natural birth and didn't have any medication, and I was very favorable. I very much enjoyed my birth and how everything turned out, and so I was very nervous about getting an epidural because I've never had one before. And I've seen videos, and I don't recommend watching them because I scared myself. So I talked with the anesthesiologist, and he was so great, and he was explaining to me that, I'll be there the whole time, and I'll be explaining things to you, and you'll be okay, and it'll be really quick, it'll be fine. And so they did the epidural, and it was okay. When they put it in, he moved it in a way where it felt like I felt every nerve ending in my spine for a second. And sorry about that. My partner just got home from dropping off my daughter at school, so he's with the twins right now, and I'm pumping while trying to wrap up the story. So I got the epidural, and it was okay. I didn't want an epidural, but I needed one because if there was an emergency during the birth and I needed an emergency C-section, there's already an epidural in place to give me the medications so that it was a smooth transition. And when they gave me the epidural, I felt like when he moved the needle or something, and I felt like all my nerve endings, and it just felt really weird, and I didn't like it. And I stopped talking for a second, and they're like, talk to us, what's going on? And I was like, I don't feel great, this doesn't feel good. And then so he adjusted it, and then it got it in place, and it was chill, it was okay. But so it wasn't the best experience. It was fine. got it in place, got the medications going, and I was feeling good. But I was pressing it was automatically giving me medication, but then you can press the button to administer extra every 15 or 10 minutes or so. And as up to the Pitocin, like I was pressing that button like every 10 minutes, every 15 minutes, earlier if I could, honestly. The contractions were getting pretty bad. I could feel them in my lower back and my lower belly, and I just really wanted it to be done. I was just like, because this was Thursday. So we came in Wednesday night, and this is already Thursday. And then once you get the epidural, you can't eat. You can only drink. And so I was there. And then, so Thursday night, going with the Pitocin, can't leave my bed and everything either. And so I was dealing with the contractions through the night, but I didn't get a lot of sleep. And so by Friday morning, I was pretty tired, and I was like not feeling it, like all these contractions, and I was still feeling it, even though I had the epidural, like it wasn't taking away the pain 100%. So I was like really tired and hungry and just like very stressed at that point. And so I was talking with my nurses and the anesthesiologist, and they were talking about changing my epidural so that I could get a working epidural, because they don't think that the one I had was a really well working epidural, since I was still feeling so much pain. And I was so stressed when I heard that, because I was just done with the needles. Like, you get so much needles when you go through IVF, and you get so much needles when you go through pregnancy, just in general, like all the blood draws. And my arms, both my arms were so poked out, like so much poking. I already had like an IV poke, and then they wanted to give me an extra IV port just in case it's needed. And then all the injections, the labs. I was just done by that point on Friday, and I was just like so stressed. And so I did not want to get another epidural. And I was feeling really defeated, honestly. I was feeling really tired and defeated. And like, I mean, birth and labor is really hard. So I was like, okay, fine, whatever, I'll just get another epidural. But my nurse, who I was very thankful, I had so many great nurses. I went to the hospital at UW Northwest in Washington, and I cannot thank the nurses enough, because all the nurses I had were spectacular. They were so sweet and so caring. And my nurse was just like, hey, why don't we try to get labor started, or let's try to work in these different positions so that we can avoid getting another epidural. And I was like, well, you know, I'll just try anything, whatever, because I was feeling lower back pain, because baby A, our boy, was head down, but he was facing up. So he was sunny side up. And she was saying, like, let's work on some positions on the bed to try to turn him so that I'm not having as much lower back pain. And I was like, well, sure. Like, as long as we can try, why not? So I was on hands and knees and like tilting my pelvis and moving back and forth and all of that. And when we were able to do those positions, eventually he did turn. So that was a relief. And so I didn't need to do any more. We didn't have to get another epidural, because, I mean, my lower back pain, it was still hurting, but it was fine. So we didn't have to do that, and we were really thankful it worked. And then my nurse was we got checked with my doctor, and so by 11 a.m., I was pretty close to 10 centimeters. I was already 9, and my doctor said that I could start doing some practice pushes to try to get me to 10 centimeters and move baby A more down the birth canal. So I was working with my nurse, and we were doing practice pushes. My partner Garnet was there, and we were doing some practice pushes, and thankfully got me to 10 centimeters. And then they were like, okay, let's move to the OR, like it's go time. And so it was very much a whirlwind. They didn't even transfer me to a different bed. They literally just took the bed I was on in the room. They rolled me into the OR. I had a head cap, and my partner had to get dressed into scrubs, and they moved me into the OR. Big room, lots of stuff, lots of bright lights. And the bed came apart. So they literally like just took out the bottom portion of my bed, put up the stirrups, and then they were like, okay, like getting everyone prepped and ready, getting the anesthesiologist, getting the nurses. And then I think there were some students in there too. There was like a lot of people in the OR. And then my partner Garnet came in the room, and then we started pushing. Like it was go time for real. And so every contraction I had, I was really pushing as like hard as I could, pushing from my abdomen, like I was having a bowel movement, just really pushing. And baby A, he came out, and he came out crying. They immediately, let me back up. So actually when I was pushing him, they were like, okay, we see the head. Do you want to feel it? And I was like, okay, sure. And so they literally had me like reach down and like feel the top of his head like poking out a bit. And then they were like, okay, push, like you got this. He's ready to come out. And then he came out crying. They immediately put him on my chest. And then I was like, okay, well, I still need to push out like number 2. But after he came out and he was crying and they took him away, baby B, my baby girl, she flipped. So they were both head down. But then baby B, once baby A came out, there was so much room. She just flipped breech. So she was breech at this point, and I was a little concerned, but my doctor and my team were so great. My doctor literally just like broke her water and then reached in, grabbed her foot, and then pulled her out. Like I remember feeling them pulling her, and it felt like my insides were being kind of pulled out of me. And I was like, really, it was very intense. In the moment, it was very, very intense. And they pulled her out by her foot, and then she came out, but she wasn't crying. And so they were really concerned. They didn't put her on my chest. Garnet got to cut baby A's umbilical cord, but they didn't get to cut baby B's because they just took her away really quick because they wanted to make sure she was okay. So they cut her umbilical cord, they got her on a light table, they did everything they needed to do, but she came out, and then she started crying. So it was a relief. They were both okay, and they were born Friday, October 6th at 11:21 and 11:23, which it honestly seemed like it went by so quick. So it seemed like it took a lot longer between baby A coming out at 11:21 and then baby B coming out at 11:23, like 2 minutes, but it just seemed so much longer in the moment. And I will say after both babies came out, I was like ready for the pain to be done, because, you know, going through birth, like, you know, after the babies come out, there's supposed to be that relief of the pain's gone. But I didn't get that. After baby B came out, then I had to deliver the placentas. The placentas were fused, which was interesting. That means they were like connected, but which they didn't tell in the ultrasound, but they both came out. And then the doctors were doing sweeps of my uterus. So the doctors were literally reaching their hands inside of me and like scraping and feeling to make sure everything came out that was supposed to come out. Like there was no leftover placenta. There was nothing like that was not supposed to be there. And that was so painful. It was like, so like that was, to me, that was honestly worse than the births themselves. And at that point, like I could feel it and I was in tears. And then my anesthesiologist was like, let me give you something more for the pain. Like, I'm so sorry you're feeling this way. And I was just so stressed out because I just gave birth and I was tired and hungry and bleeding and everything. So they gave me medication. They did all their sweeps of my uterus. Everything came out, thank God. And then they put a machine, it was called a Jada, I think. It's a machine that they put inside your uterus to clamp the bleeding and suction away some of the bleeding, I believe. And so after the twins came, I will reveal their names. So baby A, our baby boy, is Rashawn. His name's Rashawn Garnet, which is his middle name. It's like his dad. And then baby B, our girl, is Kaimani Catalia. We got the name Kaimani because it's a Jamaican name that means adventurous traveler. And then Catalia, we got it honestly from a movie. If you've seen the movie Colombiana, the main character is Catalia. We loved that name. We loved the movie, so that was her middle name. And we were very fortunate. So they were born 36 weeks and 6 days. And Rashawn weighed 5 pounds and 6 ounces. And then baby B, Kaimani, weighed 5 pounds, 1 ounce. And so we were worried about their growth restriction, that she was going to be really, really small, but she was okay. And they both needed no NICU time. They never had to leave my side at the hospital. It was great. So after the birth of them, we got wheeled back into our recovery room. And I couldn't leave the bed still for a little bit because they had that machine inside me to help stop with the bleeding. And then I was finally like ready to eat. I was also so tired. The first few moments when we were in the room, it felt like honestly like such a blur because it was just go, go, go. Like once they were ready to be here, and then yeah. Also, I will say I did have 2 OBs deliver them, my main OB, who is my doctor, and then another OB to assist, just in case, which is what they typically do with twins. And it was at the OR, the operating room. So yeah, that is the story of how they came. And I will share, I wasn't planning on sharing this in this video, but my milk did not come in when they were born because they were born early. I was 6 weeks when they were born. And so at the hospital, we supplemented with formula. My original plan was to exclusively breastfeed them, but it just didn't turn out that way because they were early. And then also they didn't really know how to latch since they were so young and early as well. So I pumped while I was at the hospital and I got some colostrum, but then my milk finally came in when we came home. So right now we are supplementing with formula, and they get breast milk pumped to them twice a day. So, and it just works out really well for us. With my first pregnancy with Daylin, they were exclusively breastfed, and then they never took a bottle. They never took a pacifier. So it was literally just me feeding them for the whole first year, which made it really hard for daycare and everything. So I'm actually very thankful that the twins take bottles because my partner can help feed and it's not just all me. And yeah, so that is my birth story. We stayed at the hospital for a couple days. Like I said, we came in Wednesday night. We had them Friday, and then we were able to come home Sunday. And at the hospital, because of COVID restrictions, you can only have 2 people visit you at the same time at the hospital. And we had some family come and visit, which was great. But over the weekend, my partner Garnet had suggested having Daylin stay with us at the hospital so they could bond with their new siblings, and they could just sleep, like cuddle with me and sleep next to me until we had to go home Sunday all together. And so that's what we did, and we had such great bonding together at the hospital, and I really enjoyed the support from the nurses. Obviously we're home now. It's December 1st, and they're 2 months today, and I'm just so grateful that they're healthy, they're gaining weight. It's so cute because at 8 weeks now, they are doing social smiles, and so they'll recognize our faces and start smiling at us, and it's just so great. I'm just so thankful for how everything turned out. Grateful to the IVF team that was able to bring us our 2 little miracles, and grateful at the UW team for tracking my pregnancy and delivering the babies. So yeah, just really grateful. So I think my next upcoming videos will mostly be like vlogs with the twins and tips of what we do throughout the day and anything like that. So if you guys have any questions or comments, leave them down below and I will answer them. I'm really good at that, and I will see you in the next video. Do stay tuned. I am posting some photos after this. Thanks.